Hey, good morning, YouTube. Hey, I got an exciting new video that everybody needs to know and understand before they can ever do a proper dispute letter to the credit bureaus. We're going to go over line by line each section and show you how to identify the inaccuracies that are reported on your credit report. But before we get started, intro, please. All right, so we're back at this. So we got a very exciting video today. So the first thing you need to do is please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell for notifications. Again, like I said, I'm gonna be pushing out these videos, giving you all the information. This is a very good time to really work on your credit. Get these negative items off your credit report, start building your credit. But the main thing is let's start getting the negative items off so you can build your credit. So this is an important class. Most people do not know how to really look at a credit report and kind of even look at what are the inaccuracies that they're reporting. A lot of people really don't understand that. So they send in these generic dispute letters like it's not mine, this is not my account. They don't know how to go after to make them do a proper investigation of what you're disputing. And those dispute letters are very important to make sure that they are disputing your dispute letters properly. So this is a class that's going to go over each area, and I'm going to give kind of situations that'll show you how that could be reporting inaccurate on your credit report. So when you start putting together your dispute letters, you will understand what to say, how to word it, and how to make sure that they are properly investigating your dispute. Because if you don't properly send one in, they could be disputing something totally different than what you want them to dispute. You're going to get a letter back from them say this information was verified or this information was updated, and what they updated it had nothing to do with what you were trying to dispute. So it is very important that you understand what the credit report is, what each section means, and all of that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through the top all the way to the bottom. So let's get started. When you're looking at your credit report, the very first thing that is on a section of an account that you want to dispute, and we're going to go through the accounts of each the accounts that you want to dispute on there, and each section on that particular account. So the first thing you're going to look at is the account number. Is that account number correct? So you need to be looking at the account number on your particular account. So if it's a car loan, whatever that whole account number, the first 9 or 10 digits should be what that account number is. And you need to make sure that that account number is the exact same account number that you have that is reporting on your credit report. Because you could actually have somebody else's account reporting on your credit report, and that could be a negative account. So don't skip that do not skip that part, that section. Make sure that you look at the account number. The next thing you want to look at is account type. You have revolving account, you have student education account, student loans, you have revolving account. So make sure that you understand, is that account reporting correctly? If it's a revolving account and they have it as an installment loan, that is reporting inaccurate. And then that's what you want to go after. So make sure that account is the actual account type that should be reporting correctly. Usually those account types are correct, but you may have a account that has been entered in wrong. So don't skip that section. Make sure you look account number and account type. The next thing you want to look at is the bureau code. The bureau code could be an authorized account? Is it an individual account? So you want to look at that, because they could say this is an authorized account, but it could be your actual individual account. So say that you have an authorized user account for a Discover card, and then somebody else's have you listed as an authorized user on a Discovery card. Make sure that they are correct and they're matching up. Account numbers match up. They both say revolving account. If one is an individual account, that individual account is your actual account. The authorized user account is the account that somebody has added to your credit report. Very important. Look at that and make sure that is not reported inaccurate. The next thing after that is account status, right? So account status, is it an open account? Is it a closed account? Is it a derogatory account? You need to make sure you look at all of those account types. An open account means that account is open and it's active. If it's not active, then you need to make sure that it's reporting correctly. Now, you may have a revolving account on there, and some people are like, well, if they're going to be saying this account's open, I know it's closed, and they're still reporting the credit limit and saying this, that the credit limit is 5,000 and I have a zero balance and I'm 100%. Most people are not going to touch that. If they're going to report that inaccurate, most people would just leave it alone. But if it is a closed account, if it's a closed account or an open account and it's reporting negative information, and you may want to get that account closed. You should get that account closed and try to get that account resolved. But that is reporting inaccurate. So the next thing you want to do is it an individual account? If it's a derogatory account. Derogatory accounts are usually closed account with late payments, collection accounts. Those two are usually, it's a derogatory account that is closed with late payments, balance owed on that account. So make sure that if account is reporting derogatory, that it is a derogatory account. You don't have a positive account reporting derogatory information on there. So if it's an open account and you have late payments, it should not, and it's still open, it should not be reporting derogatory. It should be reporting as an opened account. That's how it should be reporting. So if you have an open account that you're making payments and the account status says derogatory, that is inaccurate. You should be disputing that account. Okay. The next thing is your monthly payment. That's not really a big issue. It's more about because that's just your standard monthly payment on a revolving account. So if the standard monthly payment, but that could fluctuate because depending on your balance, they may say you may have a $25 a month payment, but maybe your payments are $30 a month, maybe because you're almost maxed out. It's not that big of a deal. It's not going to affect your score or anything like that. So the next thing is opened account. Date open. You need to make sure that it's date. Not all three bureaus do never report the same day. Equifax may report it was open on 4/1. TransUnion may say it was open on 4/13, and Equifax may say, Experian may say it's opened on 4/15. But they were all open in that month. It's just how the creditors may have reported or how they processed it at the bureaus. It's very seldom I've seen all three dates are the exact same. I've seen two of the same, one off. I've seen all three of them within the same months, a couple of days off, but different dates. But in most cases, that is not a big thing unless you know you opened up that account in January and then they say there's an open date for that account in February or in March. That's inaccurate. You need to get that fixed. Then the next thing is balance. Now, remind you, I always tell with credit cards, you never pay your credit card payment on the due date. You always pay your credit card statement before the statement date. The statement date is when interest is applied, and it is when the creditors are reporting that account to the credit bureaus. So some people are confused, like I made my payment and I paid it off, but it's still showing that I owe $200 and I made it 200. Well, when did you pay it? I paid it on the due date. Well, they already reported your balance. So now you're gonna have to wait till the next statement date before they process and report that to the credit bureau. So if your statement date is on the 15th, your due date is on the 31st, and you report your you pay it on the 31st. They've already reported that, and then you say they will not update that until the next statement cycle, which could be if you're billing the next month on the 15th, it may not report to the 20th or the 21st. So remember, you want to stay on top of your credit card payments and pay them on the statement date. Then that's why I say when you use your card, you turn around, you use it right after the statement date, and then before the next statement date, you pay it off. By doing that, you eliminate the interest. You eliminate. So if you charged up $500 from statement date right after statement to right before statement date, and you pay that balance off, you use $500 and you incur no interest. Once they see on the statement date your balance is zero, it goes back to the credit bureau that you have a zero balance, which keeps your utilization down, which keeps your scores rising up and staying at that peak level. So that's very important, the balances and when you pay your credit card statement. When you pay on that credit card statement, remember it's always before the statement date. I cannot emphasize that. No, it's not on the due date, it is on the statement date. That is when they process your payment, your interest is applied, and that's when they send out your bill to you for you to pay your bill. That gives them enough time to get all that information done, the bill sent to you, and give you time to pay the bill. But if you pay it before the statement date, you get a bill, but it'll say zero, no interest applied. Very important. The next thing you want to look at is high credit. Make sure that's right, because that could show a creditor if you have extended over your credit limit, which is an indicator to them that you may be a higher risk to overextend your credit. Meaning if you have a $500 credit limit and then they show your high credit as $600, that shows that you went over your credit limit and overextended yourself on your credit, which could be an indicator, which could let them say, well, we can't give them the best interest rate, so we're going to give them this particular interest rate based on showing that you overextended yourself on your credit. So that's important to make sure that's accurate. If that's not accurate, then you should be sending. I've never went over. This is inaccurate. I've never went over my credit limit. I've never had a high credit of this amount. Please verify this amount. Okay. The next thing you want to look at is past due. Past due is saying that you're past due. I tell all my clients, if you're gonna be late, don't be more than 30 days late. That is when they place that due date, past due, on your credit report, because that's when they report it. They report it on the day 31 you're late. They're gonna report that you were late 30 days on that bill. Then that bill goes that you're past due. That will greatly reduce your credit score. Now that you're past due, it's going to indicate that, and it's going to also indicate in your 2-year history that you have a 30-day late payment. Please avoid that at all costs. Get it paid. If it's just the minimum payment, get it paid before the 30 day, before it's late 30 days. It's very important. It doesn't go on your credit report if you was late a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's when after you hit that 30-day mark and you still haven't made that payment, and that payment hasn't processed, then That's the point you make that payment. If you call in and you made that payment on the 29th day, then you're good to go. They would not report it, right? So that's a major thing. Late payments, I've seen clients that late payments kill their credit score because late payments is 35% of your score. 35%. How do you make your payments on time? So you definitely do not want to accumulate 30-day late payments. The next biggest thing is revolving. That's 30% of your score. So those two areas is 65%, 2/3 of your credit score. That's why those two areas are most important on your credit report. You take care of those two areas, you keep your utilization down and pay your bills on time, you will always have a good credit score. You will have a good credit score. So make sure you do that. Next section we're going to talk about is payment status. Is your payment status current? Is it 30 days late? Is it 60 days late? Is it 90 days late? Is it 120 days late? And we're going to talk about that. We're going to go into that because collection companies kind of report inaccurate on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you want to make sure, were you 30 days late? Were you 60 days late? So if you wasn't 30 or 60 days late, you dispute that account status. This is inaccurate. You are reporting that I am 30 days late. I am not 30 days late. This is a lie. This account is current. This account is current. Please investigate. So you definitely want to make sure that that is not showing that you're 120 days late, 130 days late. Just kind of a little bit. Collection companies, sometimes they want to throw in and put down that you're late 120 days. They cannot do that. You are not late to them 120 days, 20 days, or 60 days. If you have a collection company reporting that, that is inaccurate information and you should be disputing that. It cannot do that. It is not a part of Metro 2 reporting. And for people that never talk about that, there's a lot of people that talk about credit on YouTube, and they do not talk about Metro 2. Metro 2 is an industry standard on how creditors are supposed to be reporting to the credit bureaus. And if they're not following that standard, then that's what you go after. And if you understand Metro 2 reporting, then you'll know and understand how they're supposed to be reporting on your credit report and if they're reporting inaccurate information. And collection agencies, they do that stuff all the time, so you got to stay on them. So the next thing after that is last reported. This is the date that the creditor last reported to the credit bureaus. This is a key section, definitely when you're going after closed accounts, derogatory accounts where they say the last report date was this. No, that cannot be true. That cannot be true. But we'll cover that, how that could be reported inaccurate. But the last reporting date. After that, you have comments. But look at your comments. Sometimes the credit bureaus say, add this comment. Don't put a bunch of excuses in the comment. That stuff stays in there and it's hard to get off. But you have to make sure your comments are correct. Sometimes the credit bureaus will say, this account was in bankruptcy. Account was not in bankruptcy. You need to have that removed. That is incorrect. It's inaccurate. You need to investigate. This account was not in a bankruptcy, right? So those comments are important. Don't overlook those comments and what they put in those comments. Make sure it coincides with the account. If it's accurate, then it is what it is. But if it's not accurate, then you need to definitely challenge that. The next thing after that is last active. That's a very important date too. When is the last this account was opened or closed, the last active date of this account, right? And the last one is date of last payment. That is saying when the date of the last payment was, right? So those are all the sections. Now we're going to cover a little bit different on what could be reported accurate and inaccurate on a credit report that you need to look at. What are the areas that you need to look at? We already talked about accounts. Look at the account number. Make sure it's accurate and correct and it's reported correctly. We talked about account type. Make sure it's a revolving account, an individual account, an authorized user account. Make sure those accounts are an educational student loan account. Make sure all that is reporting accurate. Was the account opened and closed? Again, if it's an opened account and it's a derogatory account, you want that account closed. You don't want an open derogatory account. So make sure that that count. So excuse me, it's going to say open or derogatory or closed, right? So if it says derogatory, you understand that that is a closed account. If it says open and it's actually a closed account and you're not seeing any payment history on your 2 years, you need to go ahead and get them to report that accurate. You need to start working to get that off. If it's a negative count, even if it's not a negative count, you want to report it accurate. You want the information in your credit report to report accurate. That's it. You want it to report accurate. So the next thing, I don't really get into payment history. It's not a big thing. Open date. You definitely want to make sure that the date that was open is correct. Now, let me give you an example of a closed account that's a derogatory account and they're reporting it inaccurate. So they say that this account was open in January of 2019. Follow me. January of 2019. But the last payment was January of 2020. How can you do that? How can you have a last payment? You have a last payment. Excuse me. The last payment was on January of 2018. I'm sorry. Get my dates right. On January of 2018. So how could that be? How could your last payment be before the account is actually open? And that's the things you have to look at. That says your last payment was in 2018, but you didn't even open up the account till 2019. That's inaccurate. That's the stuff you need to challenge. You look at those dates. You look at what they're reporting on those dates. If you have an account and it says the last active date was 2019, you need to always dispute that. But the last time that account was in activity was 2016. So why is that date wrong? So these are the things that you have to go after on your credit report. Is the balance inaccurate? Is the balance inaccurate? You've made 4 payments and they haven't reported on your credit report in 4 months, 3 months, 2 months. Oh, that's accurate because it's affecting your credit score. You paid the credit card off. They're still showing that you owe $600. It's been 2 months later. Dispute it because now they got to hurry up and fix it. You don't have time to be waiting on the credit bureaus to take their time and update information and with the creditors. Okay, so those are the things that you want to look at. Is the balance right? Is the open date correct? Is the past due correct? If you have a collection account, also it can't have a past due balance. That's inaccurate. You cannot have a past due balance. All it could do is says derogatory, the amount of the balance, and then it'll have the open date. It'll have the last active date and and it shouldn't even have a last payment date because you're not making payments to the collection company. Shouldn't have any of that information in there. So make sure if you have that and you see that, dispute it. Dispute it. Try to get it off your credit report. The next thing I want to talk about is, like I said, high credit. People don't look at that, but it's definitely an indicator. If you went over, if you have a $5,000 credit card and it says your high credit is $6,000, it's an indicator. It's an indicator that you overextended yourself on your credit. which could cause the creditor to deny you, which creditor not deny it, but not give you the best interest rate. So make sure that you dispute that. Make sure, no, I've never exceeded my credit limit. I've never exceeded my credit limit. This is inaccurate. I've never had a high credit of $6,000. The credit bureaus like for you to see the numbers. Do not say this is not true or it's just inaccurate. Make sure you be specific. Please investigate this inaccurate information. The balance of $458 is reporting inaccurate. Please investigate. Be specific. Please investigate the open date of this account. The open date of 1/15/2019 is reporting inaccurate. Please investigate. See, those are the wordings you need to do when you're trying to do and put together a dispute letter. The open date, please investigate the open date. It is reported inaccurate. The last payment date is before the account was open. This is inaccurate. Please investigate. So you want to be specific when you're talking to the credit bureaus. Do not just say this is not, or this is just inaccurate. You want to be specific when you're saying what is actually inaccurate. They want to know, what are you saying that is inaccurate on this credit report? That's the best way for you to look at when you're doing. They want to know, what are you claiming is inaccurate on this credit report? So you tell them specifically what is inaccurate. This collection account is reporting a past due balance. This is inaccurate. Please investigate this inaccurate past due balance of $458 on this collection account. This is not Metro 2 standard guideline reporting. So make sure that you be specific with them so they can correct that. So just say, another thing that they try to do, you have a closed account that is paid, and then they're still reporting that you're late 120 days or was late 120 days. No, you're not late 100. That account is current at this point. It may be a derogatory account, but it is still current at this time. You are no longer 120 days late. So make sure when you look at that, if you see an account to say, yes, it's a derogatory account, it was late 128 days, that is inaccurate. All that is called pulling your score down. You say, please investigate. This account is reporting inaccurate. It is reporting that I'm 120 days late. This account is paid and should be reporting current. So definitely make sure you understand the strategies and understand how to put together a dispute letter. Be specific with your dispute letters. Do not say, this is not mine. I have no clue whose this account is. If that, then you need to be doing a fraud, claiming a fraud, filing a police report, and then reporting that fraud to the credit bureaus. That's how you properly get that off. Right? So the main thing you cannot just get information off your credit report that is reported accurate unless they just can't verify it. But if it's reported accurate, it is on there. It is on there. So this is a little class. If you have any questions, please reach out to me in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please ask questions. Credit, I preach it all the time. Credit is very important. It will indicate your, it will describe, it would form your standard of living. It would tell you where you're going to live, how you're going to live, what you can buy, how you can buy it. It dictates all of that, right? Take all that away take that power away from the creditors. You need to have the power in your hand. Credit is powerful. Credit can get you a lot of places It can do a lot of things. But it doesn't mean you have to use it. It means when you need it, especially in this time, in this pandemic time, people that have good credit, low utilization, they'll be able to weather this storm. They may run their credit up, but they'll be able to weather. But what about the people that don't have credit, don't have good credit, don't have any access to money? What are they doing? Making bad decisions, getting payday loans, going out to getting high interest loans to get by, putting themselves in much further debt. So believe me, don't let anybody tell you credit is horrible, credit is bad. It's no long as you have it, you don't have to use it. But if you have it and you need it, it's there. Something breaks, you can go do it, pay it off. But I preach it all the time: credit, credit, credit. The last section we're going to talk about is 2-year payment history. So a lot of times when you look and you'll see that credit TransUnion say you was 30 days late on January, Equifax say you was okay, and then Experian say you was 60 days late. So they all three of them, who is right? All three of them could be reporting inaccurate. One of them, two of them could report an inaccurate. You really don't know. So it's two things you do. And I do this with mine. When they're reporting, it's two things you do. You report, hey, January of 2020 on my 2-year payment history, Equifax is reporting 30 days late, TransUnion is 60 days, Experian is 90 days. They are reporting inaccurate information, and you spell that out to them. And then you also take that same credit report and you send this to whoever your creditor is. You're reporting inaccurate information on my credit report. I cannot be 30 days late, 60 days late, and 90 days late within the same month. Send a letter to the creditor, right? Because it is the creditor's responsibility to be reporting that information correct. Because if they don't, you could sue the creditor. And you can also sue the credit bureaus for not reporting accurate information. But it's all about a paper trail. It's all about a paper trail, making sure that you send information to all parties to let them know that, hey, you're reporting this and you're damaging my credit by reporting this inaccurate information. And you'll wake them up, right? You'll wake them up, because now you don't. My thing is, I tell people, I don't know all the time if the credit bureaus are even verifying. That's why we send multiple letters. They may just push it to the side and send out a letter say they verify, or send you a letter saying, oh, we couldn't find your file, or the information you sent me we could not find your file to do the dispute. All kind of little stall tactics they use. So you got to make sure you stay on them. You send it, they get back, send it back, please. Hey, can I get a method of verification how you disputed? Who disputed you dispute this with? How did you dispute this with? So you need to send that, and then send a letter to the creditor. Send a letter to the creditor. If you know it's inaccurate, send a letter to the creditor. That's the main thing. So we just talked about recapping. We talked about accounts, making sure that's around account types, revolving account, student loan accounts, installment loans. We talked about all that. Make sure you look and make sure all those account types is correct for whatever it's reporting. We talked about account status. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it derogatory account? Make sure that all that is right. Okay. We talked about open date. Is it reporting the open date correctly? We talked about balance. Is it reporting the balance correctly? Again, please investigate this inaccurate balance of $500. Okay, so we want to make sure we do that. High credit. Make sure that your high credit is reporting correctly, because if you have a $500 credit card, but your high credit is $700, that's a negative indicator. So that you overextended yourself on that credit card. You didn't abide by the rules of the credit card. Your credit limit is $500. You didn't keep it under $500, right? So you definitely want to make sure you get that fixed. Past due. You want to make sure that your accounts are not reporting past due. Again, I tell my clients, do not pay your credit cards or any bill more than 30 days late. If you're 2 weeks, they can't report you 30 days late. That they may not give you another loan through them because you repeatedly was late, but man, never go past 30 days. Never go past 30 days. That creditor may not give it, but the next creditor, he's not going to know that you were more than 30 days late because the credit bureau say you was blue, green, 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 okay, 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 all the way through. So they don't know that. So make sure you never pay that credit card more than 30 days late. Borrow the money, get some money, pay it on time. You don't want to damage your credit. Again, payment history is 35% of your score, so we don't want to do that. Payment status, is it current? Is it 120 days late? Is it 60 days late? Is it 90 days late? We want to make sure that's reporting accurate. Again, collection companies can't put on there that you're 120 days late. They can't do that. They're not reporting that correctly. Make sure you go after that. If you have paid off, if you've paid off a debt, it needs to report current. It still may report derogatory in the account status, but at the bottom it should be current. It should not be saying you're 120 days or 30 days or 60 days late, because you're not anymore. So we want to make sure that. So we definitely want to make sure that. So last date reported, that's the last date the credit bureau reported on your credit. Make sure that's correct. Date of last activity. If you have an account that they haven't reported on this account till 2014, you should be disputing that. You should be, especially if it's a negative account, and then you're saying this information is inaccurate. Y'all haven't even, the last time this account has been active was 2014. I need you to reevaluate this account, because you probably can have a good chance of getting that account removed off your credit report, because that's the last time it was ever active. If anybody even looked at that account. And the last payment, you need to look at that. If the last active date was 2019 and the last payment, they say your last payment was 2020, that was inaccurate. You can't, I mean, how the last active date was 19 and my last payment was 2020, that's inaccurate. So you definitely want to do that. But hey, if you have any questions, this was a brief little class. And it could get a little deeper. You really need to look deep at your credit report. Look at every section and take your time and look at it. Circle it. Circle the things that you think are inaccurate and look at it. And formulate your dispute letters based on that information. And make sure you use the word inaccurate. This is inaccurate information, and be specific. Tell them exactly what you're telling them is inaccurate. But hey, subscribe, leave the comments if you have any questions. Again, my email is in the description. My website, advancedloancreditservices.com, is in the description. You can follow me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Learn How to Remove Negative Items Off Your Credit Report. Join it, free to join. I put a lot of information on there. If you got questions, make sure you just get on there. I'll try to put information on there to kind of keep people that want to learn how to remove their own stuff. You don't always have to pay somebody to fix your credit, but you have to understand how to fix your credit. And it's time consuming doing dispute letters. So sometimes people, they rather pay somebody to do it because they just don't have the time sitting down, looking at a credit report, filling out a dispute letter accurately and all. They rather just pay somebody. So if you want somebody to do it, hey, I'll be more than welcome to help you do it. I don't do monthly payments. I don't believe in charging people monthly payments. And so I'm more into, hey, I'm going to do a debt sheet for you. I'm going to break down all your debt. I do a spreadsheet, show how much you're in debt, where you're at, what are the negative things, what type of strategy that we need to go on your hand, and then we'll go from there. If you follow, you'll do well. Your credit score will rise. If you follow the strategies I have, you can raise your scores. I've raised people's score 100, 200 points in a matter of 2-3 months. So just because it just takes time. You know, don't let nobody tell you, oh, I can raise your 200 points in 30 days. I mean, just be wary of that, you know. And when you're fixing your credit, you should be building your credit too. You know, unless you got a 400 score and you just can't get any credit, then it's all about trying to get as much negative stuff so you can start building. But you should try to do both at the same time. It takes time building credit. It really does. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Again, you can go to my website, www.advancedloancreditservices.com. You can email me at Coleman, Coleman, at advancedloancreditservices.com. You could join, again, my Facebook group, which is on Facebook. It's a group called Learn to Remove Negative Items Off Your Credit Report. So, hey, it was good. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you watching. Again, like I said, I'm going to start putting more and more of these videos out to help people get their credit right. The next class we're going to talk about, it's going to be about how to deal with collection companies, how to deal, what type of letters to do, how to formulate a letter to them, and then other strategies that you do, how you're limited. We're going to talk about the Fair Financial Protection Board, Consumer Protection Board. We'll talk about all the little things that you can do to make sure those collection companies are properly doing what they're supposed to be doing. But again, hey, I appreciate, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. We're going to be putting out more videos. So we're going to be putting out real videos to help you. All right, you have a good day. Happy Easter. Hey, stay safe. Stay safe. Shelter at home. Don't be out in them streets. Make sure you disinfect everything too when you're out there. Take you some disinfectant wipe, gas pump, the non-buttons that you push, the grocery carts, make sure you disinfect them. Keep some disinfectant with you while you're in the store. Keep it safe. All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you.